Special attention today's Mass for Teresa and Jason. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. The Lord be with you. On this day we come before the Lord asking His mercy and healing in our lives. You were sent to heal the right of heart. Lord, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
You came to call sinners. Christ, have mercy. Receive for us at the right hand of the Father. Lord, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
May Almighty God have mercy on us, forgive us our sins, and bring us to everlasting life.
Amen.
Let us pray. Graciously grant to your church, O merciful God, that gathered by the Holy Spirit she may be devoted to you with all her heart and united in purity of intent. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
A reading from the Acts of the Apostles. At Miletus, Paul spoke to the presbyters of the church of Ephesus. Keep watch over yourselves and over the whole flock, of which the Holy Spirit has appointed you overseers, in which you tend the church of God that he acquired with his own blood. I know that after my departure, savage wolves will come among you, and they will not spare the flock. And from your own group, men will come forward, perverting the truth, to draw the disciples away after them. So be vigilant, and remember that for 3 years, night and day, I unceasingly admonished each of you with tears. And now I commend you to God, and to that gracious word of his that can build you up and give you the inheritance among all who are consecrated. I have never wanted anyone's silver or gold or clothing. You know well that these very hands have served my needs and my companions. In every way I have shown you that by hard work of that sort we must help the weak. And keep in mind the words of the Lord Jesus, who himself said, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." When he had finished speaking, he knelt down and prayed with them all. They were all weeping loudly as they threw their arms around Paul and kissed him, for they were deeply distressed that he had said that they would never see his face again. Then they escorted him to the ship. The word of the Lord. Sing to God, O kingdoms of the earth. Sing to God, O kingdoms of the earth. Show forth, O God, your power, the power, O God, with which you took our part. For your temple in Jerusalem, that the kings bring you gifts. Sing to God, O kingdoms of the earth. You kingdoms of the earth, sing to God. Chant praise to the Lord, who rides on the heights of the ancient heavens. Behold, his voice resounds, the voice of power. Confess the power of God. Sing to God, O kingdoms of the earth. Over Israel is his majesty. His power is in the skies. Awesome in his sanctuary is God, the God of Israel. He gives power and strength to his people. Sing to God, O kingdoms of the earth. Alleluia, alleluia. Alleluia, alleluia. Your word, O Lord, is truth. Consecrate us in the truth. Alleluia, alleluia.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Lifting up his eyes to heaven, Jesus prayed, saying, Holy Father, keep them in your name that you have given me, so that they may be one just as we are one. When I was with them, I protected them in your name that you gave me, and I guarded them, and none of them was lost except the son of destruction, in order that the scripture might be fulfilled. But now I am coming to you. I speak this in the world so that they may share my joy completely. I gave them your word, and the world hated them, because they do not belong to the world any more than I belong to the world. I do not ask that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one. They do not belong to the world any more than I belong to the world. Consecrate them in the truth. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, so I sent them into the world. And I consecrate myself for them, so that they also may be consecrated in truth. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Some things that we learn things out of everything, and some things out of this virus. I think we learn too. We learn that prosperity is not everything, and we can material things are not the be-all and end-all of life. They can be the end of life, but they're not the be-all of life. And what happens sometimes is that sometimes for people it's a huge revelation that they never thought of before. When I noticed it, this came out yesterday, and I've noticed it before. People, when they lose their faith, and somebody like this Christian rock band singer guy announced that he no longer believes in God, and then I read the interview, and he said, "Well, maybe, but." And before, there's a couple other ones that were preachers and no longer believe in God. And I asked myself, well, why is that? If they're preaching and teaching, and what is it that all of a sudden they don't believe in God anymore? And the only thing I can come up with so far is the whole thing of materialism, prosperity. All of a sudden that's gone away, and everything about their faith in God was built on that. And you take it away, there is no God. So what do we build our faith on? And on the truth. Jesus said, you build it on the truth. Reveal that my word. I know years and years ago, when I was a young whippersnapper, not even thinking of seminary at that point, working in television, and on weekends they call moonlight. I had another job. And it was photography. I would go out and shoot weddings because it paid a lot of money. And the owner of this studio in Moorhead, he was a graduate of Concordia, Lutheran guy, Dave Gross. You ever heard of Gross Studios? Well, Dave is a very religious man and very deep in his faith, very inspirational person, and it shows in the way he acts, the way he treats employees, the way he treated me and everybody. And I don't think you do it nowadays, but he gave me a gift when I started shooting for him. And it was a Bible, paraphrase type of Bible. I remember it was green, remember that. And I took it and I started reading it. And that's where I learned things. What happened when I started, I don't know if he recommended it or what, but what I read in there mostly was the books of wisdom and Proverbs, especially things that Sirach and things like that talk about practical things. I remember things in there, and it was good for me as a young man. I'm learning some manners through the books of wisdom, like when you're invited to someone's home, don't be the last to finish. That's right in the Bible. Not that I always practiced it, but it's in there. And then the question that I frequently had, fear of the Lord, what does that mean? Am I supposed to be scared of God? And well, in a sense, it's a scary thing, but not scared of. And I thought, well, what is fear of the Lord? You know, they have the catechism and everything, and I thought, where in the scriptures does it talk about this? And I found it. Once again, Proverbs 8:13. Fear of the Lord is to hate evil. In other words, fear of the Lord is to walk with the Lord and believe and practice what God practices, and to reject what God rejects. So anyway, Proverbs 8:13. I'm sure there's different translations, but that's where you find it. Well, okay, so let me end with this is the prayer that we heard in the gospel today. Very special prayer. As opposed to when the disciples said, Lord, teach us to pray, how John's disciples learned to pray. And so he taught them the Our Father, which is the perfect prayer. And the Our Father sums up everything of what we are about in our relationship with God. Now Jesus, before he leaves, is praying a special prayer. And this is his conversation with the Father. In a sense, it's Jesus letting us into an intimacy that we, most of the time in his life here on earth, we wouldn't see. We wouldn't see it. And it's this intimate prayer with the Father about what the Father sent him to do, what he has accomplished, and now he's asking the Father to take care of everybody that he brought to himself, and to send the Holy Spirit. And what he said, consecrate them. What does he say? Consecrate them in the truth. Consecrate them in the truth. And that's why the Vatican Council documents, they say the fullness of the truth subsists in the Catholic Church. And other churches, to a certain degree, are members of that, but the fullness of it subsists in the church. And if we seek the truth, we most likely will find it to different degrees, but we will find it. And if we're seeking the truth in that sense is the great equalizer on our journey to the kingdom of heaven. Rather than saying to somebody, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to hell. Why? If I live in a part of the world where we've never heard of Jesus, never heard of the gospel, never heard of any type of great, Judaism, Muslim, it's pagan. Does that mean I'm going to hell? Well, that sounds sort of funny for the universal salvation brought to us through Christ. No. Jesus gives a hint at that in this, and Paul talks about it too. Consecrate them in the truth. Those who seek the truth will hear my voice and will find me. St. Paul talks about just because someone hasn't heard the gospel doesn't mean they're not going to reach Judgment Day, because through our very creation we have a conscience, and that conscience seeks the truth, and it notifies us when we're not. So there's nobody who can say, since I don't believe in this, I can do whatever I want. No, that's not true. We are all born with a sense of the truth in us. And when we seek the truth, we find it. And it does affect our life no matter what. It changes us. And as we keep pursuing the truth, we will find more and more. And ultimately, it will lead us to the person of Jesus, who says about himself, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. And with St. Padre Pio, when he was alive, they wanted to visit this guy in the hospital who was, I think, an agnostic or atheist or something. And they wondered, but he said Padre Pio walked into the room and said, this room is filled with the fragrance of the truth. stories. This guy was so seeking the truth in his life, and Padre Pio could pick up on that and congratulated him for it. So, the truth will always set us free, and the truth is a person, Jesus Christ. And now let us stand and offer our prayers and petitions to the Lord.
We pray for our Holy Father, Pope Francis, our Bishop John, and for all who hold and teach the faith throughout the world. We pray to the Lord. For all government leaders, for our president, our vice president, our senators, our representatives, our judicial branch, our state legislators, our governors and mayors and community leaders, we pray to the Lord. For our families, our relatives and friends, for those who have asked us to pray for them, for those for whom we have promised to pray for them, for those who have no one to pray for them, for those in our book of intentions, Holy Family St. Mary's School, especially for the 5th graders now, we have their graduation mass tomorrow, for our parish office, and all of our parishioners and their families, relatives, and friends, for those who are in need of healing, and for the intention of this Mass, with special intention for Teresa and Jason, we pray to the Lord. And for all who have passed from this life, that they may be rejoicing in the kingdom of heaven, and the glory of God, we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Blessed are you, Lord, God of all creation, for through your goodness we have received the bread we offer you through the earth, the work of human hands, and will become for us the bread of life. Blessed are you, Lord, God of all creation, for through your goodness we have received the wine we offer you through the vine and work of human hands, will become our spiritual drink. Pray, sisters and brothers, that my sacrifice and yours may be acceptable to God, the Almighty Father.
May the Lord accept the sacrifice we have him for the praise and glory of his name, for our good and the will of all his holy church.
Accept, O Lord, we pray, the sacrifices instituted by your commands, and through these sacred mysteries which we celebrate as our dutiful service. Lift up your hearts. Let us give thanks to the Lord our God. It is truly right and just, our duty and our salvation, at all times to proclaim you, O Lord. But in this time above all, to honor you more gloriously when Christ our Passover has been sacrificed. Through him the children of light rise to eternal life, and the halls of the heavenly kingdom are thrown open to the faithful. For his death is our ransom from death, and in his rising the life of all has risen. Therefore, overcome with paschal joy, every land and every people exalts in your praise. And even the heavenly powers with the angelic hosts sing together the unending hymn of your glory as they acclaim, Holy, holy, holy Lord, God of hosts, heaven and earth are full of your glory. Hosanna in the highest. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. You are indeed holy, O Lord, the fount of all holiness. Make holy, therefore, these gifts, we pray, by sending down your Spirit upon them like the dewfall, so that they may become for us the body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ. At the time he was betrayed and entered willingly into his passion For this is my body, which will be given up for you. In a similar way, when supper was ended, he took the chalice once more, giving thanks, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take this, all of you, and drink from it. For this is the chalice of my blood, the blood of the new and eternal covenant, which will be poured out for you for many for the forgiveness of sins. Do this in memory of me." The mystery of faith. Save us, Savior of the world, for by your cross and resurrection you have set us free. Therefore, as we celebrate the memorial of his death and resurrection, we offer you, Lord, the bread of life and the chalice of salvation, giving thanks that you have held us worthy to be in your presence and minister to you. Humbly we pray that, partaking of the body and blood of Christ, we may be gathered into one by the Holy Spirit. Remember, Lord, your church spread throughout the world and bring her to the fullness of charity, together with Francis, our Pope, John, our Bishop, and all the clergy. Remember also our brothers and sisters who have fallen asleep in the hope of the resurrection and all who died in your mercy. Welcome them into the light of your face. Have mercy on us all, we pray, that with the Blessed Virgin Mary, Mother of God, with Blessed Joseph, her spouse, with the blessed apostles, and all the saints who have pleased you throughout the ages, we merit to be co-heirs to eternal life. May praise and glorify you through your Son, Jesus Christ. Through him, and with him, and in him, O God, Almighty Father, in the unity of the Holy Spirit, all glory and honor is yours forever and ever. Amen. At the Savior's command, informed by divine teaching, we dare to say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Deliver us, Lord, we pray, from every evil. Graciously grant peace in our days, that by them with your mercy we may be always free from sin and safe from all distress, as we await the blessed hope and the coming of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Lord Jesus Christ, who said to your apostles, "Peace I leave you, my peace I give you," look not on our sins, but on the faith of your church, and graciously grant her peace and unity in accordance with your will, who live and reign forever and ever. Amen. The peace of the Lord be with you always. Lamb of God, take away the sins of the world. Have mercy on us.
Lamb of God, take away the sins of the world. Have mercy on us. Lamb of God, take away the sins of the world. Have mercy on us.
Behold the Lamb of God. Behold him who takes away the sins of the world. Blessed are those called to the supper of the Lamb. Lord, I am not worthy that you should enter into my heart.
The communion anthem. I will pass through my sheep. I myself will give them rest, says the Lord. Alleluia.
prepare spiritual communion. My Jesus, I believe that you are in the Blessed Sacrament. I love you above all things, and I long for you in my soul. Since I cannot now receive you sacramentally, come at least spiritually into my heart. As though you are already come, I embrace you and unite myself entirely to you. Never permit me to be separated from you. Amen. Let us pray. May our partaking of this divine sacrament, O Lord, constantly increase your grace within us, and by cleansing us with his power, make us always ready to receive so great a gift through Christ our Lord. Amen. I'll have to get going and run. I literally do have back-to-back appointments till about 8 o'clock tonight. But, just so you know, one of those is a manicure and pedicure. I'm not that busy. The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Go and announce the gospel of the Lord.